Ladies and gentlemen, dreamers and doers, seekers of purpose and fulfillment, welcome to Passion on Purpose, the podcast that sets your soul on fire and ignites the spark within you. I'm your host, Steph Hilfer, and I'm beyond thrilled you're here. Passion on Purpose features leaders, experts, and sometimes me on center stage. We put the spotlight on visionaries, entrepreneurs, leaders, experts, and everyday heroes to share their journey of self-discovery, enthusiasm, and unwavering determination. We'll explore how they use their passion and purpose to fuel their brand. Alongside our leaders, we'll provide practical tips, actionable advice, and wisdom from our experts across various fields. So if you're ready to unleash your inner fire, shake off the doubts and insecurities, and pursue a life of purpose with unbridled enthusiasm, then let's dive in. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Passion on Purpose podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have another leader on center stage, someone I have chatted with before, and I'm excited to now get to share his story on my show. Ken is Email. Ken, what is your last name? Countess.
It's Countess, yeah.
Yeah.
Like count
I was
1,
like,
2,
wait,
3.
we can't just go Ken is Email. You have a full name. Ken Countess, welcome so much to the show.
Well, thank you, Steph. It's so great to be here.
I'm really excited, even though I introduced you as Ken is Email. I know kenisemail.com is so important to the work you're doing. It is everything that you're doing, and I'm excited to dive into that. But we're going to start the show, as we always do, with this question. What is your why?
My why is that I love helping small businesses succeed. That's my thing. And how that all came about was I spent about the first 25 years of my career after being a broadcaster. I went to work for big Fortune 100 companies, and you get a distorted view of the world when you work for a big company. I'll say it out loud. I was a corporate drone. And after my last corporate gig, I thought, no, there's more to life than this. And I wound up getting recruited by Constant Contact to be one of their national troop of 300 trainers. And what I found, Steph, was how much I really loved working with small businesses. I have a business coach who says, Ken, you've probably forgotten more about marketing than other people will ever know. He said, impart that knowledge with small businesses, small business owners who need this knowledge. And I just found I've enjoyed that so much over the last 20 years.
And so there's so much to unpack there. I'm going to pause where I was going to go with that question, and I want to pull back again. So your why is to help other small business owners succeed. When did that first come to light for you? You know, there was a point in your career where I'm sure you were just getting through the job, right?
Yeah.
Where did you find this tipping point of, I don't want to just get through this for me, I really want to help others? Can you pinpoint a time where that felt in alignment for you?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly when it was. It was in 2001. I had just left Motorola. We had about a 22-year period together. And they said, I was living in Dallas, Texas area. And they said, okay, Ken, your next job is in Chicago. I'm like, Chicago? I'll take what's behind door number 2. And door number 2 was a pretty nice severance package. And I thought, you know what? We're going to take 6 months off. This is me thinking, all right, I'm in my mid-40s. I'm going to take 6 months off. The family will just pack everybody up and take a trip. And when we get back, then I'll start looking for a job. And that was in the middle of 2001. And guess what happened in 2001? 9/11. Well, at 9/11 time, nobody's hiring. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? Well, I'll consult. And so the answer to the question is, an engineer in Dallas called me and he said, I'm an engineer. I have no idea what to do with marketing. Can you help? And it was he and I working together to help him bring a product together and bring it to market. And that was really the first experience I had outside of the corporate environment And I'll tell you, Steph, I just so enjoyed working with him. I thought, this is it. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my working career.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's been since 2001. So it's a couple of years, right?
Yeah. So when did you shift from consulting in kind of probably what I would imagine a pretty full, broad spectrum of consulting topics?
Yeah.
When did you shift into this very niche, very focused world of email?
Just about 2 years ago. And how that happened, how that happened was I actually created a marketing agency. We built websites, we did social media, we did email marketing, we did SEO, we did PR, we did all that stuff. And it got to a point where it just wasn't so much fun for me anymore. I didn't want to have so many plates spinning. I didn't
Yeah.
want to have a team of people. I just wanted to have a few people that I love working with who love doing what I love doing. And over time, I mentioned Constant Contact earlier. Much of what Constant Contact was all about was email marketing.
Hmm.
And so I just found one thing I knew for sure is that the social media platforms have come and gone over the years. There are a few names that have stuck around: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, right? And more recently, TikTok. But one thing I know is that not everybody checks social media every day. I mean, there are people who are
Hmm.
pretty addicted to it. But I do know that everybody checks their email every day. We
Hmm.
know this, right? I mean, you and I probably have both checked our email inboxes multiple times already today. And so, what I've come to realize over time, and the reason that I zeroed in on email marketing over the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 years, but more specifically in the last two, is that I know that if a business wants to reach someone, they're going to reach them with an email marketing campaign. The trick is to do it right, and that's where I come in. I teach people, businesses, business owners, how to do email marketing in a way that gets them the ROI that it promises, which is over 36 to 1.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. So when you mentioned Constant Contact, I see that you're a 12-year partner. How did that, I know you said earlier they reached out to you. How did they get wind of you and what has that evolution of a partnership looked like?
Yeah, that's a pretty funny story. So I left my last corporate gig in 2010, right? So I left in 2001, but along the way, between 2001 and 2010, I got recruited to work for a travel agency, travel company as their VP of marketing. Marriott hired me in their Marriott Vacation Club, and then recessions happened and they laid almost everybody off. So I was laid off at that point. Then I went to work for a smaller company that's now part of Honeywell. And after I left there, about a year later, I saw some notice that there was a presentation being given on email marketing by Constant Contact. I thought, well, I was consulting. I had an open time in my calendar, and I went and I attended the event. And I went up to the presenter at the end of the event and said, I want to do what you do. And she said, oh, well, we actually need somebody who does what you do. It was a match made in heaven. And that was in 2011, 12 years ago. And so I've become their top trainer. And I just love the relationship that I have with them. I'm also a partner of Microsoft and several other well known companies. But I really value the relationship with Constant Contact because they are very much aligned with what I love to do, which is teaching small businesses how to be better marketers. Because as you so well know, you're a great marketer yourself. As you so well know, not everybody is a born marketer. Many
Right.
people are great at sales or operations or whatever their chosen profession is. And marketing sometimes becomes an afterthought. But as you and I both know, marketing is such a critical piece of any business. That's what generates leads. And then it's up to the salespeople to close the leads. And in some cases, in many cases, marketing and sales are the same person, right? They look in the mirror and go, oh yeah, I'm marketing and sales. But that's not always the case.
Right.
And so what you and I both do is help people become better marketers and close more sales and drive more revenue.
So do you exclusively use Constant Contact for your clients, or do you work with other platforms? I know you said you work with Microsoft, but as far as an actual email marketing tool, do you use Constant Contact exclusively?
No, no, not at all. Actually, there are so many really good platforms out there. And the very first thing I do when someone contacts me and I learn a little bit about what their business is and what their needs are, then we say, okay, well, based on what you're trying to do, there may be a different platform that's better for you. It could be Klaviyo, it could be Salesforce, it could be HubSpot, it could be any number of different platforms. But for those, generally speaking, the smaller businesses tend to benefit most from a tool like Constant Contact, which has a fairly low price point to get started. It integrates with 5,000 different software platforms. But if your business is primarily e-commerce, it may not be the right thing for you. So I work with a business no matter what type of business it is. The very first thing we do is try to figure out, okay, what are you trying to achieve and what's the right tool for you? It's like in construction. Not everybody needs a sledgehammer. Maybe they just need a smaller hammer, or the other way around.
Yeah.
So we figure out what's the right tool, and then we get them set up with the right tool and teach them how to use it.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. So email marketing, I think people have a good sense of what an email is. People have varying ideas of what marketing is. But for people who are listening who, want a professional's idea in 2023, like what email marketing is and what it does for you, and like just a good 101 statement. How do you describe email marketing today?
Yeah, the 101 statement is email builds relationships. Nobody opens up their inbox in the morning and says, I can't wait to buy something. Let me check my email. But if you use email to build a relationship, cultivate a relationship, build trust and build credibility, then you get people to the point where they say, you know what? I think I need the service you offer. Let me give you a call.
Yeah, absolutely. And so building trust, making connections, building rapport with clients, through email is not always easy for people to understand because they're so eager to get their sales item out in front of people. So for you in your world, do you help teach some of these values to your client, or is that embedded in your own culture and that's what makes the work you do on behalf of your clients so successful?
Well, the answer is yes to both.
I love it.
It's both ways, right? I mean, I live and breathe that. But for most businesses, a lot of businesses, they start marketing and they say, I'm just going to sell, sell, sell. I
Mhm.
don't know about you, Steph. When I open up my inbox, it's not to buy, buy, buy.
Mhm. Mhm.
I want to learn a little bit more about you before I do business with you. And so for many of my clients, let me back up a step. My mailing list is about 4,000 people. It used to be a lot bigger. I've scaled it back because, as you probably know, the more engaged people you have on your list, the better the results you're going to get, the higher your delivery rates are. We could spend days or weeks talking about all the intricacies of email. But the thing that you really need to know, and your listeners need to know, is that what you're going to use email most effectively for is building that relationship with someone online, trying to mimic what you might do in person.
Mhm.
So if you meet somebody for the first time, let's say you go to a Chamber of Commerce event, just as an example, any kind of a networking event, and you and I meet for the first time. When I first go up to you and shake your hand, the first thing out of my mouth isn't, will you marry me? No, of
Right.
course not. You want to build a relationship with someone. And so that's what we do with email too. I've got a couple of stories. One is someone who's been on my list for 5 years I send out a weekly email. It goes out every Tuesday. And about 3 weeks ago, somebody called me, and I had his number in my phone because we had spoken years ago. But he said to me, he says, Ken, this is Michael. By the way, he's a recruiter. He searches for tech talent. And he called me. He says, hey, it's Michael. I've been on your list for 5 years, and now I need what you do. Now, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of people who do something similar to what I do. But it's that relationship that he and I have cultivated over the years that prompted him to finally say, you know what? I need help with email marketing. Ken, you're the guy.
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, I think it's a good reminder that sales and marketing, and I mean, I'm no sales expert, but sales and marketing, there's a long game. It's really a long game that you have to play. People who really focus on the short game tend to attract clients who are not in alignment with their brand, tend to attract clients who might not be the best fit for what they do because they're looking for quick fixes versus cultivating a true authentic attraction and connection with a client.
That's true. And I would add to that, the person who gets the email that does an impulse buy is just as likely to have an impulse quit.
Yeah.
So having somebody on your list for a while, and for some people it's longer, some people it's shorter, but the person who's been receiving your campaign over time is much more likely to be a customer that sticks.
Yes, for sure. And more likely to, forward that email to somebody and say, this is the guy. This is who I talked to. Listen to this great advice. This really resonated with me. Because they've built that rapport that you're going to be still around every Tuesday. You walk the talk. You are validated in the industry. There's just a lot of referral opportunity and loyalty that I think the long game gives us as well.
That's so true. That's so true.
So to do what you do, help people learn how to connect, how to build trust, and with your why of helping small businesses succeed. That's a huge endeavor. And in order to do that, you must truly have some incorporated core values that you live and breathe by for kenisemail.com. What are those, and how did you come to solidify them?
Yeah, they sound a little cliche, but I'll say them anyway. It's honesty, credibility, trustworthiness, and transparency. If someone calls me, they're going to get a straight answer. I'm not going to hide behind anything, right? You want to know what to do? I'll tell you what to do. How much does it cost? I'll tell you how much it'll cost. You want to know how long it'll take? I'll tell you how long it'll take. And that's what's kept us in business. We're in our 23rd year now.
Yeah.
And you don't get to 23 years without being honest and credible and trustworthy and all of that.
So I want to talk about the evolution of your company because you've been around 23 years, and you had mentioned that kenisemail.com kind of formulated a couple years ago, which this very focused niche, which I love. I applaud you for that because it's a very anyone who's ever done it will understand it's very scary. It's there's a lot of perceived risks, but I don't believe they're actually there. There's a lot of fear around it, but there's a lot of freedom and a lot of great things that come from niching into something so specific like you have. And I want to hear about the evolution that you went through to come to the idea of kenisemail.com as the new name for your company.
Sure. It's a great question. We started out 2001 when I left Motorola. It was called the Countess Consulting Group. Right? I was a consultant. And then as we evolved into more of a complete marketing agency, we changed the brand name to the Countess Group. Well, I hired a business coach back in 2021. And on the very first call, his name is Dave. And Dave asked me, he said, the Countess Group, what do you do? Right? And so I said, well, mostly I teach people how to do email marketing. We do social, we do this, we do that, but mostly it's email marketing. He said, great. Your new brand is kenisemail.com. It's like, oh, you know what? It's stuck.
Yeah.
It's stuck. Yes. And so now when I walk in a room, I mean, we're we see each other on screen, and you could see the logo in the upper left-hand corner, and the shirt I'm wearing says Ken is Email. Now when I go to networking events, they go, Ken is Email is here. It's not as we started out, right? It's not Ken Countess. No, Ken is Email is here.
Yeah. It's funny because people are probably like, she doesn't even know her guest's name. But it's funny because even on here on our video chat, your name in the lower left-hand corner of my window, it doesn't have your last name. It just says Ken C. And so that kind of threw me off guard for a second. And so I just rolled with it. I was like, Ken is Email. But that is really what I think of when I think of you. I know your last name, obviously, but I don't think of you like that. I'm like, Ken is Email. That's what I think of. So I think it definitely stuck.
Yeah, it works. It works.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to make sure that the listeners have a really clear sense of who Ken is Email is for, what exactly you do, and what an easy way to get started with you would be.
Sure. Well, what we are is email marketing coaches. And by the way, there were people who say, I'd rather not be coached. I'd rather you do it for me. Well, we do it for you too.
Great.
And everything is found at kenisemail.com, where you can read about my bio. You can see what my history is, the experience I've got, but mostly it's resources. What is it that you as a small business or even a larger business need? Our ideal client is a business that's been in business at least 2 years, generating at least $200,000 a year in sales, because those are the kinds of businesses that can afford to look out and say, gee, I need help with what I'm doing. I just can't do it all by myself anymore. Mm-hmm. And I'll have a conversation with anybody, and no sales pitch. And you just go to kenisemail.com/call. kenisemail.com/call. And that's how we get started. Just have a casual conversation. I want to learn a little bit about your business and what your needs are and who your market is. And then we'll talk about what's the right tool for you. Maybe it is something other than email marketing. Probably not, because everybody checks email every day. So that's how you reach out to me.
Great. I love that. And I just know from every conversation I've had with you thus far, Ken, that free call won't be a sales pitch, that it'll be a very genuine, value-filled call. So I do really encourage you guys to go check out kenisemail.com, add that /call, take advantage of his generosity and get on a call with him, because at the very minimum, I know you will glean a lot of valuable tips and tricks just from that call alone. So Ken, thank you so much for coming on and sharing more about your story. And I love the evolution. I mean, I can only imagine being in business 23 years, just the roller coaster I've had in my almost 5 years. I just think it's very admirable, and it's inspiring to see where you've come and where you are today.
It's been a fun ride, and I look forward to hearing from your listeners and viewers, and to talking to you again soon too, Steph. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Thanks, Ken. All right, guys, until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Passion on Purpose podcast. I truly hope you got a lot of value out of this episode. So if you did, please rate, review, and share. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, whether a leader or an expert, please go to getvim.com/podcast, and you will find our application page, or reach out to me directly and I can give you more information.